How you doing? I used to do a lot of collecting videos. Frankly, we haven't done a ton of collecting here at the nursery. We've been doing more refining. But I want to talk about collecting here in Central Florida. This is liquidambar. This is our native Sweetgum. This is a good example of some native material you can collect. This particular tree was here on the property when I bought it back in 2011. February 2011 is when I purchased the property. It's February 2025 right now. Actually February 13th. So it's almost too late to collect this. This tree was cut back when I cleared out the area back in 2012. Then I cut it back. You can see the first cut was down here. Then I cut it back again in 2018 or 19, and now I'm ready to cut it back again. But I need to collect this because frankly we've added buildings close to it and it's kind of been forgotten. It's hard to see from this side, but it actually has a couple hollows in the trunk. I wanted to make sure it was strong, so I added some fertilizer last year, really kind of get it to get it growing good. So it had a lot of stored energy for this collecting. I did hit angles throughout the years, just 25% of the root ball, so hopefully it won't be too bad. But the problem is this oak right behind me has roots around this as well, so this is going to be a real bear. And I want to kind of do a video on this because frankly it's a fabulous piece of material. The problem is getting it collected. So what we're going to do is cut the root ball. We're going to put it right into a concrete tub. If it has some really deep roots, we might end up putting it into a just a 30-gallon squat, but we really won't know until we get in there. You can see that the buds are still tight, but they're starting to swell. So again, normally we start collecting stuff like this after Christmas, and I'll keep collecting certain varieties till April, but our ideal time for a lot of deciduous stuff is after Christmas, the 27th of December till about February 15th. At that point the deciduous stuff all starts to pop open, so I stop collecting at that point. However, we'll still collect certain varieties as long as we defoliate them. I've collected Florida maples, hornbeams, native hornbeams, and bald cypresses that were late to pop March and April with no problem. They've all survived. So the trick is the right thing at the right time of year, and then it's aftercare is key. So I'm going to start digging around this. Hopefully there's a decent root ball. These guys tend to sprout from the roots of other trees around them, and if you look, we'll show you in a minute, there's a huge old liquidambar about 20 feet away from this. This very well might have been a seed, or it might have been a sprout from the root. So if we collect it and there is some good feeders tight underneath, it should survive. After it's collected, I'm going to use this tall piece to help give me some leverage, but after it's collected, these get cut back and hopefully it'll back bud down here so we can actually have some branches to work with. If for some reason, because it is hollow in some spots, it cracks and breaks, that's because I was too aggressive trying to use this as a lever and I didn't pay attention. It's really, the key is to take your time, dig it out with a goal, and get it back in a container as soon as possible. Don't dig it out and then let it dry out. You want to make sure the roots stay moist, and give it some good aftercare, which would consist of periodically misting the foliage, keeping it in a partially shaded area until you get a lot of back budding. Then you can, when you start getting a lot of growth, you can bump it into full sun. But if you put it right into full sun with no feeder roots, what happens is it tends to desiccate, especially if you don't have a mist system on it, and you get a real heavy dieback on stuff like this. But if you keep it partially shaded or underneath a shade cloth, and you keep it a little bit more protected, you get a lot more back budding. So that's our typical aftercare on this. I won't start doing final carving on this after I do this initial styling for probably 3 years. I want to get a lot of feeder roots underneath it after it's collected. and then I'm gonna start working and carving the top. But there's no rush on this. This tree is already 14 years in. I don't mind another 14 years to get it to where it's going to be, but I'm excited about this. Hopefully it survives. There's always a toss up, and we'll see what happens. So come with me on this journey. I'm going to cut the whole thing around in a circle around the perimeter, nice and deep. And see, when I hit stuff like this, I gotta cut it. And I can use this, I can use an axe, but I'm just kind of setting the perimeter right now. Right here. See how it's still moving on the other side of the circle? Right here, when I move it, it's still connected. Ready? Yeah. Still connected. Ooh. Happy that it's out after 14 years, disappointed that it's not more feeder roots. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that when I cut around the edge, I didn't cut through the giant sucker roots, and the feeders weren't under sprinklers, so they grew out pretty long and straight with not a lot of feeders.
I think it's going to make it.
50-50. Aftercare is key on deciduous trees like this. I will say this is the perfect type of tree to not show till we know that it lives.
Probably put it where it's going to be and then put soil.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Like this, watered every day, all. Okay, so all dug up. It was in fact a sucker, which is how they grow a lot. It did have some feeder roots, not like I was hoping, but it was actually on both sides there was a little bit of feeder roots. So what we did is put it in pine bark perlite, put it in a concrete tub, and put it in a shady spot. It's going to get hit with sprinklers once a day. I might, when it starts getting hotter, put a little fogger up top here just to add a little bit of humidity, especially in the summer when it starts getting real hot, just to kind of give this guy a little bit more moisture in the cambium. I'm not for sure it's going to live. This is a flip of the coin. There's not a lot of feeders underneath it, but if it does, you'll know in about 2 or 3 years, because that's when we can start doing a little bit of work on it, providing that it starts growing vigorously. Thanks a lot. This is basically how we collect stuff.
You want to do one of those wood chopping TikToks?
Nobody wants to see that.